So welcome back to another video, and in this video I will go through how to hit whoops with some different techniques and like what the important parts are and like what to think about, as well as touch a little bit on suspension. So like it's going to be like everything about whoops, and there's not like only one way to hit whoops. Like you can have different techniques, and like depending on your setup as well, like is going to decide how you hit the whoops and stuff like that. But yeah, a little bit of everything. I have a video where I go through like generally about Supercross, so I suggest that you go and watch that first, because the whoops are kind of the most difficult part of Supercross. So go watch the other video first, and it will be linked in the description. In the whoops themselves, you want to lean your rider slightly backwards, but just a little bit. You don't want to be fully backwards. This could also depend on setup and like your riding technique. Just a like general way, just lean slightly backwards. The most important part though is going to be the entry of the whoops and the first 3 whoops, and the important thing is that you hit your front wheel on the second whoop really good. That is going to set you up nice for the rest of the whoop section. Depending on what technique you're doing to enter the whoops, you might put your front wheel on the first whoop, some put their front wheel on the second whoop, and I thought I'd first show you a first person view of how to hit the whoops. And the thing you can pay attention is to my right stick and how much I'm leaning back in the whoops, and of course this is going to be different depending on your setup and your riding style, but I think you can get a very good general idea from this. So coming into the whoops, you want to come in as fast as possible, and you want to make sure that you get your front wheel nicely on top of every whoop, especially the second and third whoop, and staying in a high gear also really helps, but I will talk more about that in just a minute. Coming into the whoops here, you can see I'm leaning back, and there's a lot of different ways you can do this, and I have 2 examples of how you can kind of enter the whoops. So in this first set here, I am leaning backwards a little bit, and I'm just barely tapping the first whoop, and you can see I'm really aiming to get the front tire nicely on this first whoop, and then nicely on the third whoop, and then it just continues, and I do some small adjustments where it's necessary, and you kind of learn that by time, like when you need to adjust, but mostly you can kind of stay very central, and it will kind of figure itself out in these whoops. And notice how the bike is bouncing up on the front and then bouncing back down when you hit the rear tire. Coming here, hitting your front tire, bouncing up a little bit, and then you tag the rear tire, and it kind of balances out. So coming into this next set of whoops, there's a corner before. So the important thing here is that we straighten the bike up, so we are upright when we enter the whoops, as you can see. Very nice. And this time I'm leaning forward, and you can see I'm just barely tapping the first, but the one I'm really aiming for, and the important one, is the second whoop here. Really nice. And I jump to the third, and then I just continue to tap the front wheel on top of every whoop and tag it with the back tire. Really nice. It's also really good to keep in high gear as possible, because firstly you will be in lower RPMs, and the bike will track a lot better. Like the rear tire will have a lot more grip and like keep going forward, because it kind of grips better on the each whoop, right? Compared to if you would have high RPMs. The second thing is that you don't want to run out of gear in the whoops. And it's kind of a self-explanatory, like if you run out of gear, so your bike is like revving out and you don't accelerate anymore, like you are going to start to slow down, and that's when you start to go fall down in between the whoops, and when you fall down in between the whoops, that is when you are going to crash. So keeping in high gear both makes you go faster, and it's easier because it tracks better, and you don't risk to lose your speed, because the faster you go in the whoops, the easier it is. So as for setup and suspension, this is my setup that I have linked in the description, and you can download it for free. Just join my Discord in the description and download it. Otherwise you can go to CDS, they have a few setups as well that are free. But the main things for the whoops is first of all like just the basic Supercross stuff, like higher spring rate than default. But I'm not gonna talk too much about that. The main things I want to talk about are the high speed compression, And this is the compression that you're going to use in the mid to end of the whoops. And having a high speed compression will make the rear end softer, which could be nice in the whoops, so it really soaks up every whoop really nice. The second thing is a rebound, both back and front. For me, the front is more important, that you have a high rebound so that the front end kicks up properly. Like you saw when I was talking in replay, like how the front end kicks up and the rear bike kicks the back down. So the high rebound will make the suspension extend back out fast, which will first of all make sure you don't run out of suspension, but it will also like help kick the bike upwards more in the front. And then you match that with your rebound in the rear to get it to kick back down again. Another thing I like to mess a little bit with, which is more advanced and like a little bit harder to kind of understand, is the rod length. And very simply put, this is going to make the rear suspension more progressive. So you can generally go by a higher rod length will make the rear suspension feel softer, while a lower will make the rear suspension feel stiffer. I like it around 150, 154, just because it makes the rear a little bit softer and it kind of soaks up the bumps a little bit. But the thing I usually do when I adjust this is if I go higher, I usually go higher on the rear rebound as well. And if I go lower, which will make the rear end feel stiffer, I usually go 1 or 2 clicks down on the rebound. Just because if you have it softer, you need more rebound to kick it back up. While if you have a stiffer suspension, you don't need as much rebound because the bike won't really fall down as much. So that will be all for this video. And to point out kind of the most important parts, we have a few ways to enter the whoops. One is going to be leaning a little bit more back, and the other is going to be leaning a little bit more forward. Like you can't do anything in between, like that's just 2 suggestions. But the important part is that you hit your second and third whoop nicely with your front tire. That will set you up to do nice for the rest of the whoops. And then you just kind of do small adjustments, and remember to keep it in a high gear. It's just easier, it will be faster. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. If you struggle with Supercross or like any other MxBikes things, feel free to join my Discord and order some coaching for like $5 for an hour of coaching, and all of that will be linked in the description. And more than that, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll see you later, and have a good day.